Hi guys, we're joined by Steve Hill from XP Recruitment today. Hi Steve, how's it going?
I'm good, Joe. You good?
Brilliant, thank you. Um, I know we jumped on a call about last week. Unfortunately, didn't quite go to plan, so we're starting right back from the beginning. But I'd love to sort of start off with hearing a bit about yourself, your experience in the industry, and how you got to where you are today.
Well, you can probably tell by the greyness in my whiskers that I've been in recruitment a fair while. Coming up, I think 38 years now. I joined in the late 80s, part of the Blue Arrow Group in the driving industrial sector, and I've pretty much been in that sector ever since. I helped form an agency back in the early 2000s. I think it was about 2002 with a guy. And when I left there 3 years ago, the company was turning over in excess of 80 million, and we're operating from 50 locations. So I was very proud to play a part as the MD for that length of time. And I joined XP here in I think it was October 2022. It's a mix here. It's the driving industrial, which I knew and I've known for 30 odd years, and then the medical sector here, which I had no experience of at all. So I was brought in here to kind of generate the drive industrial side of things. And when I arrived here, I think we had more staff working in the office than we had temps working. It was it wasn't in too good a shape, but today we find ourselves in a much healthier position, thankfully.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I guess it's interesting coming from solely focused on the driving and logistics side of things into the more medical healthcare sectors. What are the main differences, and how do you adapt to that change and keep departments running simultaneously?
Well, I think first of all, we talk about the first of all the similarities. You have the three factors involved in this. You have the client, you have the worker, the temporary worker, and then you have us as the consultants or the team of consultants. So that relationship between those three parties it's all about communication. So that transcends whether you're dealing with medical or back in the day when I dealt with technical. So whether you're putting a driver out to a role or a nurse, those the need for the clear communication, etc., is across all sectors. And the same goes for compliance, although it's probably obvious to say that medical is even more important to get the compliance right. I think what we've worked on here, having two diverse sectors, I'd certainly worked in the driving industrial sector before, where people talk about being specialists in that sector. And it seems a bit of an oddity when you're dealing with two very diverse sectors in medical and logistics, how you can be specialists in both. But we have two very separate teams. There is no crossover. We use the same YT, which no doubt we'll talk about shortly, and I manage both. But away from the similarities, what's different is very much listening to the healthcare sector is a much softer sector, if you can imagine that. The way you talk to people, the way you act. They're very much logistics is very much just in time. It's very fast paced. Medical slightly less so. But you've got to be bang on the compliance, bang on the communication, and very much understand the needs of the worker as well as the client, and marry those two together. So I'd probably say there are more similarities than dissimilarities, if it doesn't sound a crazy thing. But the focus that we put it on, we have consultants who are very, very experienced in those sectors, and we have no crossover between the two, and I think that's important.
You brought up something interesting there, and I don't think it's something we covered last time. Was the different actual approach in communication you have to go with between sectors? We've been doing a lot here about leadership and different styles of that nature, and it would be quite interesting to get your thoughts on how the culture that you would set from the top then does trickle down into those staff members and the teams that are working in these certain sectors, and how you blend all of that together.
Well, I mean, if you kind of start with the basics, that we have a team meeting every morning. It depends on what time, because the guys are sometimes out on site, etc. The way the sectors work here slightly differently is that the medical side of things here we supply UK wide, purely because of the nature of the beast there. The logistics side, the driving industrial, is pretty much Northamptonshire based. So it's a lot more physical, and by that I mean you very much meet the clients and the workers on site.
Yeah.
But we still nonetheless have a meeting every morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock, to talk about the positives and negatives of each division, and you get people to share their successes. And I think if you've got somebody on the logistics side, and that's doing particularly well at the moment, and the guy who runs the industrial side, Tom, is very keen to tell us his successes, and as salespeople, you want them to tell you.
Yeah.
But it's not belittling the medical side. So you have to then give the medical guys the chance to say, well, you know, we've done this and done that. The logistics team, can you help them? Got any ideas how we can open the door there to that client, etc.? And like I've just said, you know, the problems on both sides are shared. Kind of get hold of clients, unreliable workers, maybe compliance, whatever it might be. It transcends across both sectors. So from a point of view of how you manage it, you've got to be very much, you've got to pull and push on both sectors. You've got to use the positivity from one and try and get the other guys up. And if the other sector is particularly down, they're not having a great week, you've got to find positivity amongst that, and you've got to they've got to bounce off each other. We actually share the same office, so there's a lot. The phones are going mad at times, and whilst they're two completely diverse sectors, there is still the shout across the room, I've got a new client, or I've made that person compliant. And as a manager, what you're trying to do is, it's like a sporting analogy. It's pointless scoring lots of goals if you can't defend properly. So you've got to have both working in unison, if you know what I mean. And I think that from a top-down point of view, you know, I've built, like to think, some very, very good teams over the years. And certainly when I came here, we changed quite a lot of staff. There's no doubt about it. But it's like, again, a football analogy, bring the manager in. If you get your right team in place, and you set it up, then it kind of looks after itself to a degree.
Yeah.
And we've got a very stable team here. We've only changed hands with one person in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. It's very important to get that consistency as well, because every time you replace a consultant, you're having to build that relationship with the temp and the client again. And you try not to do that. So you're always trying to keep everybody pulling in the right direction, really.
Yeah. I think on the positivity theme as well, just before we started recording there, we were talking about how there's a couple of positives in the market at the moment. It's starting to, the sun's starting to shine through the clouds, I think we could say. And I thought it might just be a good forum for you to talk about the last few months at XP and how you're doing, just to sort of share that positive approach and what can be done.
Yeah, I think in terms of the way the teams have performed here, we've just produced our figures for July, and that's the best month we've had since I've been here, and it's almost 3 years. And that's unusual in recruitment to be that busy in July. Like I've just said, I think holidays and that kind of thing plays its part, but we've been knocking on lots of doors over the last year or so. Now, obviously, every agency is going to say the same. But the tenacity of the individuals who work here, who constantly knock and chip away at clients, and whether you're talking to care home managers or distribution managers, and it's that kind of mindset to keep going and to be positive. So what's pretty much happened since, well, I'd probably even say the turn of the year, the numbers have been going up exponentially. We're up, I think we're up 70% on last year, which is a fantastic number to achieve in the beginning of August. We bought Rocket on in I think it was March, and there's no doubt that's played a part in our successes. It's just made a lot of our systems slicker and smoother, which again we'll probably talk about in a second, and it's enabled us to concentrate on sales, which is what it's all about. So the warehousing and industrial side has gone up exponentially. Our client base is stronger than it's ever been. The driving side, I brought a guy called Alan Lathwell into the team here about 15 months ago. I'd worked with him at my previous business. And he's not the greatest salesman by his own admission, but what he's very good at is building a relationship with the drivers and the clients, understanding that. And we've recently taken somebody on here on the medical side of things to front up the sales in a lot more professional way. But we've also increased our presence in the nursing sector, which is a very an area that we needed to do. So we've just been working on new application forms for them, and again going through Rocket and improving that process. And that started to already show shows some very positive signs. So overall, the last well, I'll probably go back to the last 9 months or so has been a positive trajectory. And don't get me wrong, some challenging times.
Yeah.
It's not all in a straight line, but if someone had said to me, "You're going to be here on August the 1st," I'd have absolutely bitten the handle.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. It's quite a nice segue. I know our customer success team, Megan and David. They when I said I wanted to do these interviews with customers, you were the first name that came up. So I think that goes both ways. We're loving working with you guys, but I guess we could start with our journey together. And was there a driving force behind looking for a new system? Were you trialing different systems? What happened there?
Um, I think you're always looking to improve technology. You know, quite obviously AI is playing a massive part, and it's something we've grabbed hold of here. And I had a call with you guys last week looking at the new applicant tracking system going forward, which is very, very exciting. I'm very much on board with that. So what we were looking for was probably a slicker, quicker, more reliable system. The one thing you look for in any CR, we'll call it a CRM system, is the ease of use. And there was the previous systems we'd used. There was lots of kickback. It was never smooth. There was always kind of complaints about it. And we did a kind of beauty parade at the turn of the year and looked at lots of systems. And certainly when we saw Rocket, just the look of it sounds silly, but it just felt comfortable. It looked right. The colors, just the way it was laid out, the type style, everything. And I think it's a kind of welcoming site and it flows really well. And that really suited our needs. So what I was looking for is something to make us more efficient from that point of view, improve the compliance, the referencing procedure, which is very much what we need on the medical side of things. And I wanted to work with a group of people who understood recruitment. And I think that was probably the biggest driving factor. I didn't want developers telling us what we needed.
Yeah.
I wanted to come to a organization that was their system was growing and developing, and they wanted to work with recruiters. And so, well, basically, tell us what you want, and we'll try and do it. Now, I appreciate if you get 10 recruiters in a room, you probably get 10 ideas of what to do.
Yeah.
You will get a general consensus of opinion. We'd like this, or we'd like that. We'd like the dashboard here, or we'd like this. And pretty much to a T, that's come across, and it's working incredibly well. And I've got a lot of time for Megan and David, and I'm very kind of them to say what they said. But what I liked about it, and we didn't know this at the time, is the onboarding experience was fantastic, because in previous systems that we'd used, it was very much, well, if we're going to onboard you, it's going to cost this. You'll get 2, 3, 4 hours of our time, bang, done. If you want anything else, well, send us an email type thing. But with Megan, particularly because I dealt with her at the beginning, it was, you weren't made to feel stupid about any of your questions. And the team were quite reticent about it. They weren't very keen on having to change, despite whinging about the old system.
Yeah.
People don't like change, do they?
It's like the adoption, isn't it? There's always issues there.
Well, I have this mentality where a third of the people will just come with you. They'll just do what you say.
Yeah.
A third will want, they want lots of reassurance. And the other third will have got their feet in concrete and are not going to move for whatever reason. And they're normally the third who complain about everything as well. So it's difficult to sort of unpack that. But Megan very patiently spent time going through the system. And it wasn't right, there you go, get on with it. Because you only take 10, 15, 20% on board, despite listening to everything, despite being sent videos, you have to go back and say, well, I missed this point about registration. I missed this point about referencing. No problem at all. Log onto a diary, book a time, etc., etc. And when we took on the girl recently on medical, Megan set the call up, spent 2 hours with her on an hour, then another hour with her. Really easy, really seamless. And even now, when I go on the help button, David or Megan comes back very quickly. They'll send me a video of, they don't make you feel stupid, because sometimes you're asking silly questions, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you are asking something, they go, well, actually, I'm not too sure about that. It's going to take a bit of time. But that onboarding, I have to say, was exceptional. Very, very good. And I can't praise them high enough for their support. Very good.
No, that's amazing to hear. They are great. I think I came on board with Rocket just coming into my 6th month now. I came in, knew absolutely nothing about recruitment, if I'm being perfectly honest. I was doing sales for a marketing agency and came over here. And the actual breadth of knowledge and the exposure that I've been able to get to the system, to some of our clients and learn a lot more about the industry, it's been amazing.
Mm.
What do you see as the most important challenges going into 2026?
Well, I think the Employment Rights Bill is going to be the thing that is going to be the biggest challenge. We still don't absolutely know its shape and format. We've got a pretty good idea. Without getting too political, the current government are not big fans of agencies and that kind of thing. And while zero hours contractors, they wanted to jump on them, a 0 hours contract for an agency worker is intrinsically different to a 0 hours contract if you're working for company X or Y. But there's positives and negatives to that. The positives are that whatever framework the government put that employment agencies bill in, it's going to affect every single company and every single agency. And it's
Yeah,
how we as XP Recruitment, XP Medical, react to that. If you throw your toys out the pram and don't try and face it in a positive mindset, then you're just going to get swallowed up by it, and it'll sort of it'll drown you. I think it's first of all, it's for me and Adrian, who's the CEO here, to understand what it means, to communicate that to the teams, and then to communicate that to both the workers and the clients. There's been lots of changes over the years. Back in, I think, 2011, when they brought the agency workers regulations in, it was perceived it was going to be the death knell of recruitment agencies.
yeah,
Actually, it wasn't, and pretty much no one talks about AWR nowadays. But there's certainly going to be some challenges around statutory sick pay and the costs involved with that kind of thing, and whether we're going to have to guarantee a certain amount of hours. But until that's absolutely put in stone, we can't react to it. So we'll do the usual thing. We'll take legal advice, see where we can go with it. But that's the biggest challenge. The economy, temp agencies in particular, they tend to benefit when the economy is going down or going up. At the moment, companies are very much, they don't want to take on permanent staff because of the extra costs, so they'll dip into the water for temporary staff. So I think that's probably why we're riding particularly high at the moment. Let's hope that continues,
yeah,
and we've got that kind of economy we're not too sure about. That's a benefit to us, but it's such a fractured market at the moment. If you gave me 15 drivers and 15 nurses tomorrow, I'd get them work in certain areas, but not others. You can't set your watch by it like you used to in recruitment. So we've just
yeah,
got to be very flexible, very adaptable. We've got to keep our ear close to the ground with our clients. And the big thing is work with your clients, because a lot of them are very naive to the situation. They don't understand how it's going to affect them. It's basically, that's your job, recruitment business, is to sort out. So
yeah.
if we can face it in a positive fashion, understand it, dissect it, and then communicate that to the teams and the clients, then it will give us half a chance. But it's the biggest challenge by far, I think.
Yeah. And I guess from that, what do you think when you are trying to bring new clients on nowadays? What are people looking for? We've produced some content recently, and the industry that we're in now is completely different to what it was 5 years ago,
Mm.
and 10 years ago is a bit of a different universe. So it'd
Yeah.
be interesting to see how the perspective has shift and just what you think clients are looking for in their partners.
Well, first of all, what hasn't changed in 5 years is that the cost of labour is still the biggest cost in pretty much every business, particularly the sector that we work in healthcare and logistics. And so you've got to be efficient. And by that, I mean, if you're churning staff, or staff are turning up late, or they're not the right criteria, or they've got the wrong skill sets, that costs companies money.
Yeah.
And the more expensive workers get, the more that costs, quite obviously. So I think what clients since COVID particularly want, they want data. They want easy access to reports of how much my staff are costing me. They want to keep across that cost, because suddenly if you take on 10 temps to do a contract, you run up that bill, and you run a contract and the client goes, well, actually, I paid more to the new lot than I have the profit
Yeah.
out of that particular contract for whatever you're doing. So what they want, and they also want ease. they want an easy life. So whether you're checking in temps through the mobile phone, through the geofencing, the electronic timesheets, they want an easy life. If they're going to give you their recruitment to deal with, deal it at a good price, but they want more for their buck. I think that's really what's changed in the last 5 years. AI and associated things like that can help, but they want quality of staff for a good value price. They don't want to keep churning and keep constantly chasing you about things. So if you can provide that at the touch of a button, or click of a text or an email or whatever, then the client wants that. But it is that control of costs. That's what they really want, particularly, I think.
Yeah. And that brings me on to sort of my next point. We spoke last time about the way that Gen Z and millennials are coming into the workforce. Opinions are changing. I thought this was really interesting last time we spoke about it, and just how you have to actually adapt to, especially on the candidate side.
Yeah.
I think specifically probably with the more warehousing and logistics side of things, they may be the target audience now.
Yeah.
And the way that you've got to reach them is completely different. You know, you've got to build up these social media platforms. You've got to factor in all this technology. It would just be interesting to get your perspective on that and how recruitment agencies are building towards it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, our social media is actually very poor. One of the things we're changing, we're just literally relaunching our website and our social media. It's certainly nowhere near what it should be. But my previous experience at another business is that social media is very, very important, because Gen Z, or whatever generation terminology they're now called, is that they access information at the click of a button on their phone.
Yeah.
If they've got to click more than twice, they get bored and turn off. So you've got to be relevant. You've got to be out there, and you've got to be in their faces. And the balancing act that we have is that the average age of a driver in the UK now is about 50, or I think it's 45 to 50. And whilst most of them are conversant with their mobile phone, we do still have issues about registering online, and they want to come and fill out paper forms, etc. And those drivers still look on job boards, which they're not on the way out, but they're certainly not what they were maybe 5
There's
10 years.
definitely a lot fewer. I think even walking through the sort of town centre now, you don't really see it as often.
No. I mean, certainly in the business I was involved in previously, we had shop fronted locations because people walked in looking for work. That doesn't happen anymore, or doesn't happen as much, certainly. So our contact is very much referrals, which is very important to us, and reputation, and word does go around. And that certainly works in the healthcare sector, about the way nurses and healthcare assistants, they tend to work in areas, geographical areas, where they sort of know each other, and that's really important. That also happens on the driving industrial side of things. So the social media, having the app within Rocket is really important. We can send push notifications out. It can all be sort of collated in one place. We can do referrals on there and that kind of thing. So just the way we interact with individuals is really important. But the problem we have is that you want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And the generation, whatever they're called, Z, they're not too keen on talking. They just want to tap away. And
we don't want to pick up the phone.
No, and we had a situation this week. On board, the whole story of it was an issue with an individual, and the client's texting away, and the individual's texting away, and you're picking the phone up trying to talk to them, and it could have been resolved in a minute, but it took about half a day to resolve backwards and forwards with emails.
Yeah,
it wasn't a serious problem, but it's frustrating. But you have to roll with it because that's the way it is. But if you can make that slicker, so it's all in one place and it's all recorded, etc., then it does have its benefits. But it's a challenge. But again, it's a challenge that every agency has to deal with, isn't it? So
yeah, I find it really interesting to see how people are dealing with it. I mean, from personal experience, I'm 22 and I'm very much in that category of I don't like picking up the phone. I'd rather send a text message. Thankfully, I'll get to do stuff like this where I get to sit on a call and interview people. So you get a bit better at it. But, a lot of my friends wouldn't be picking up the phone, would rather send a text.
I find it quite odd. We had a Facebook inquiry last week, and a guy texted and said, have you got any work? And I went back and said, yeah, look, here's a number. because I was controlling it that day. Here's the number, speak to my colleague. And then he texts back, rather than calling, or he just said, what sort of work have you got?
Yeah.
10 texts later, he said, well, it's not the work I want. But if he'd just picked the phone up and said, have you got X? And we said, well, actually, we've only got Y. Okay, no worries. I'll try somewhere else or whatever it might be. But it was literally, so it didn't save time. It actually cost more time and effort. But there we
Yeah.
go. It is what it is.
It's a thing you've got to adapt to, isn't it? And I think amidst all the data and the technology and stuff, recruitment in and of itself, it's a people business.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easy to forget that. And I do think there's something to be said about trying to maintain some form of status quo with how things are going.
Well, I think we go on about it here all the time. It's communication, communication, communication. And I'm very lucky. My team here, pretty much to a man and woman, are very verbal. They like picking the phone. They like talking to people. They're very engaging individuals as well. So I certainly don't poo-poo the texting and emailing because that's life. But when we can pick the phone up here, we pick the phone up and we just marry that with the technology and make sure it's all recorded and as I say, kept in one place.
Yeah, and I think the experience that you provide through doing that as well is a lot higher than if people were sat back sort of residing on sending texts and emails. You do get a lot more. It's just easier to build relationships at the end of the day, especially when you're trying to maintain those. I've got a couple more questions for you. Quick sort of snippet. If you could surmise the relationship between XP and Rocket or your experience with the system in one sentence, what would you say?
Efficient, easy to use, and does what it says on the tin.
Awesome. And then finally, completely over to you. What's coming up for the future? What are you excited about? Let us know. Yeah.
Well, the first thing is our website, which is, I think it was last touched about 6 years ago. For whatever reason, that's been left. I know websites aren't the kind of be all and end all like they probably once were, but we're just in the throes of redeveloping that. So that will be launched in August. And on the back of that, our social media will be pushing that in a lot more in a positive fashion. So we're looking forward to that for the reasons we just spoke about. I think I'm looking forward to very much as well, without being too corny about it, the development of Rocket as well, and that applicant tracking system that was demonstrated last week. I think that's really good. I think that can help us on our perm side, which is some area we want to develop as well, depending on how the economy goes. But just seeing how the team grows, really, because we had a bit of pain here when I first come here, and I think when I came in October 22, the economy was dipping then, and it's bumbled along the floor for the early part of 23 and into 24, and we've just created a really good team. It's such a buzz. I live sort of an hour and 15, hour and a half away from here, and I still enjoy driving in here. Don't always enjoy the traffic jams going home, but if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't come in. And I really like the team here.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of respect for each other, and we have good fun. And I'm just looking forward to seeing where we go, because we could do something quite special here over the next couple of years, all things being equal. So yeah, it's all good.
absolutely. Yeah, and we're really happy to be working with you as well. Just want to say another big thank you. Thank you for jumping on today. I think this was amazing, and we're looking forward to see what happens for you guys in the future.
No problem. Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.